Peace, y'all. The beginning. What is it going to take to get you over the hump? What is it going to take to get you over the hump? It doesn't. It doesn't justify. It doesn't justify the lack of results. It doesn't justify the lack of results. What your past was, what it was that you lacked in terms of encouragement, what you lacked in terms of resource, what you lacked, results doesn't reflect excuses. All right. And I don't want to really get caught up on results. What is the recipe to getting things done? The recipe has to be the recipe has to be no other option. You have to leave no other option but success on the table. I'm gonna break that down a little further. I did a video about listening to respond, okay? Listening to respond. So when you're having a conversation, it could be a dialogue with many people, right? And it doesn't really matter the challenge at hand, right? Or what the topic of discussion is. You're When you have people that, whether it be you, I've been this person a lot in my past. When you have someone that is listening, not even listening, they're hearing parts of the conversation just enough to develop a response to it. That is that goes hand to hand or simultaneous with creating an excuse. And this is what I mean by that. Okay. Um, you know, you you looked at Winded down on the fourth quarter, right? You looked at Winded out there, on the court, the beginning of the fourth. Oh well, wooty woo, right? The criticism wasn't rooted in hatred or a slant, or to slight you in any kind of way, right? The criticism didn't even require a response, really, not a verbal one, okay? And the excuse is made. It's like like the PDK, right? A pre-selected gear, right? In a double clutch system, right? It already selects the next gear before you even get there. That's a habit. That is a habit. It's a bad habit. All right. So what is it going to take to get you over the hump? Okay. Listening is a very active skill. And it's a very valuable part when it comes to, communicating. Okay. And this part of what I guess what I want to say is the part of communication that has to be communicated with yourself. Because when, in this colloquial sense, communication is speaking with others, across the, you know, sort of like bandwidth, right? What I'm referring to is the communication with self. What do you have to communicate with yourself to develop yourself? Because you have to develop yourself to get you over the hump, whatever it may be. It could be fighting, vices, addiction, laziness, right? Or just, having to become courageous because you come from a place of, excuse me, come from a place of, fear, okay? Doubt, feeling sorry for yourself, okay? you it's no negative like your thoughts is one thing, right? If you have a negative thought process, and I'm speaking all from experience. I know what it's like, okay? Especially being young, coming up in, certain demographics, right? You have, I want to call it automatic negative. You have automatic negative thoughts. You have automatic negative thoughts. And where do they stem from? I mean, you will have to do some healing and really be aware and be in tune and have time to sit and study yourself to find out where these things are rooted, because that oftentimes that's what it takes, to become aware and identify them, and then you can go about fixing them and healing from them, right? But an automatic negative thought is saying, before I get to the task at hand, there's, I'm not good enough to achieve that. Or, this may happen first. That may happen first. All rooted in fear, and the polar opposite of being, courageous. It's something very small that makes the major difference over time. And we're referring to being consistent, right? Consistency, being persistent. Even when, actions are, I don't want to, it's not even about things being, favorable or being enjoyed at a certain point in the game of the process, okay? When you set off when we set off in a direction to get, to get somewhere, as in a height or a goal, so to speak, right? To achieve something, it's going to take a certain level of persistence and self-communication and discipline and development, and a certain amount of failure. Like, you don't get anywhere without, failing. It's not just going to be, it's not going to be like smooth sailing. You're going to have challenges, right? We was dealing with challenges, a couple videos back, So yeah, so you're dealing with, certain challenges along the way. Challenges has to present themselves. That's how we evolve. Challenges make you evolve, okay? And along the way, you have to be in tune with yourself to be able to challenge yourself. And the challenge with listening or hearing to respond, the challenge seems kind of simple, but actually, what is it really? We're making excuses. You're making an excuse, and excuses don't yield any results. It's like, I'm sorry for stepping on your foot. Okay, I accept that. But until it's not accepted, you keep stepping on my foot. It's almost like you're doing it on purpose, or you're just being careless about it. All right. The excuse does not reflect the excuse does not reflect any of the outward circumstances or variables in which you place as a buffer between you and where you're trying to get to. Everything comes full circle back to, yourself and your self-talk, your self habits, or your personal habits, the way that you're communicating with yourself. Oh, I had more, I had more in the tank for real. When you got more in the tank. When you left it all out there on the field, or you left it all out there on the court. If you want the bid with other things, when you left more in the tank, you didn't give it your all. That those things need to be communicated with yourself. Okay, example, when you're pulled up and said, "Hey, I know you didn't do your best. I know you had more." And it was, "Oh, you don't know what I had to But that response was that response could have been triggered from whenever. This is lack of discipline, right? Um, but what it was is it's an excuse. That excuse was already ready to go. That excuse was ready to fly. Versus you taking that internally, man. I knew it was noticeable, huh? Yeah. You didn't give it your all. I know what I should have did. I could have done this. And the reason why this changes your life, the self communication, is because I just want to say, like, stay in the now. Your life, our lives we're living right now. It's like, it's sort of like when we're kids. Remember when we were kids, it's sort of like, yeah, I can't wait to grow up, because when I grow up, it's going to be like that. We have a picture in our mind what it's like going to be like when we get our license and we're going to be driving on our own, right? Or you have what the future may look like, right? And your life is taking place in a day. It's like we have memories. I'm not referring to the memories of what you think you may remember from said events, because that could be flawed, just relying on, memory alone. Yeah, I remember when that happened. I was eating Cheerios. Was it Cheerios or was it another kind of cereal? Over time that becomes a little, can become a little foggy. That could be, the little details, right, could actually change when you're trying to remember, because it's not actual, it's not in the now. We're living life in the now, in the right now. So you have to heal in the now. You have to be consistent in the now. You have to develop in the now. You have to be active in the now. And this thing is about being active. Okay. When it's passive, it's like, okay, yeah, that wasn't you didn't use your potential on that. And excuses. The bad thing about excuses is, like, we're wasting time. We could have been doing something else. And disclaimer, I'm not saying, like, nobody's perfect, but when you understand this, it'll shift. You can communicate something different within yourself. Why wait until tomorrow to do something that I can do today? Why wait till tomorrow to become the highest version of myself? Shout out Cam, rest in peace, man. My brother, man. Don't let tomorrow be your last day. You understand? When you're gonna quit smoking, you're gonna quit drinking, or you're gonna quit, being late. You're gonna quit making excuses. You're gonna you're gonna quit eating fast food. You're gonna quit not working out. Like, don't let if you're gonna quit, don't let tomorrow be your last day doing. Don't let tomorrow be your last day doing it. You're going to quit now. Everything has to take place in the now. And if we're always making excuses why we can't do it now, we have to do it later, that right there, that's a miscommunication with self. And that hinders, that buffers or hinders success. That's in the way of fulfillment. That interrupts the journey, because we're not being active. Okay, I almost lost my train of thought there. When I say don't wait until tomorrow. Don't wait till tomorrow to do something you could do in the now. That does not mean, I'm not saying that certain things don't take priority or don't take precedence over others. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, so far as having an excuse why something didn't get done that you wanted to do, because it's not one size fits all. What it is that I do is not the same thing that or what it is that I may be good at is not the same thing that you may be good at. You may be great at something that, I'm just not good at. And that doesn't mean that I have to do my all every day just to be good at something that you're doing. I don't think purpose, it's not, I'm not under that idea that that's the way purpose works. Purpose is something that, you have, that you're able to, that you're able to give, and you do it effortlessly. And you do it so well, it's like, oh man, it's like almost second nature, right? It's like that happy thing, right? And that's not probably the best way I could put it, but it's like it doesn't, it doesn't cost you anything to get at up, like that. I mean, that's what I'm here for, man. I'm here to listen. Sort of like if you got the skill of listening, and it's funny coming from me, of all people. You talking about hard head. That could have been, that was my handle, right? Hard headed, right? The skill of listening, man, is unmatched. The tech era, with these devices, with these social medias and things like that, right? So much is being communicated on a day-to-day basis. You take 5 steps and you grab your phone and the device is communicating something with you. You can grab your device and the device already knows where you're going because because we're communicating even without knowing that we're communicating. Okay, this is communication. All right. Now, what are we communicating with ourselves? A lot of times when you go without using certain muscles, that muscle becomes weak, or that skill, without using a certain skill, you've been running off the ball so long, right? Running off screens and everything, your skill for handling the backcourt pressure, handling the ball, right? In the backcourt with pressure could become rusty because you got weaker in that, because you're used to running off the ball. You've been in a different skill set. I say that to say the communication with, the text message, right? The text message made a lot of people not utilize, not everyone, but it made a lot of people not utilize, the verbal conversation, actually listening to what's being said and then responding to what's being said versus hearing to respond. Actually paying attention what the meaning was of that statement and then respond, accordingly, right? You could look at movies now. I remember you could look at some old movies, it wasn't people on their phones or nothing like that. Right? You can look into movies. That's the difference between movies now. If you look at movies, like everybody has the phone, the text message or the social media thing on this, and even in the movie, it has to take frame because that's a part of reality. But it's sort of like having a contacts list, right? No one has to remember, phone numbers by heart. Because you're not using that muscle anymore. That memory muscle that had to remember certain numbers by heart. But you may remember a number from 10 years ago, but don't remember somebody that that kind of way. So again, I say that to say, the lost art of communication and the lost art of self-communication, because now everything has a dopamine fix to it, whether we're aware of it or not. Okay, yeah, I'm about to go use the bathroom, and I left my phone. I need my phone to go use the bathroom. I'm about to go get something to eat. I need my phone. I left my phone at home. Spin the block. You need to. Okay, it's sort of like already having to have the answer without needing to hear what's being what you're even being questioned on. That's hearing to listen. And that is a challenge in society that we have to really break because, man, what is it going to take to get you over the hump? That communication is not going to come from the professor. That communication is not going to come from a parent. That communication is not going to come from this, so to speak. And disclaimer, I'm saying nothing wrong with communicating, using these devices if it's going to help you along your journey. Affirmations, motivation, discipline. I see this a lot. Discipline over motivation. I know this is what we're doing. We're here to inspire and motivate, but I'm 100 or 1,000% on board with discipline over motivation. 1,000%, because that's what it's going to take. You're not always going to feel motivated. You're not always going to be inspired. You're not always going to feel like you're the best shape, because things go on and we're challenged. We're faced with challenges. And, I just encourage all of us to challenge ourselves. But what happens is when you're not disciplined, when you're not inspired, when you're not motivated, that discipline gets you over the hump. That's the hump, because you developed a routine and you have communicated to yourself why you need to do what you need to do. It doesn't matter that you didn't feel like it. You say, man, I gotta go to the gym. I gotta work out. Yeah, man, I couldn't, I didn't, I had to take that time for me. I had to. I owe it to me first. You understand? The communication with self shouldn't have any excuses. That's where, let me clean that up. However you want to dress it up. Yourself doesn't accept excuses. That's one place it doesn't, that excuses aren't accepted. I'm not saying they're accepted outside of yourself, but you have to, you definitely have to really learn to communicate with yourself to get you over the hump, especially in times of being frustrated, being, saddened, being in a dark place, being, under distress, in despair, just not feeling encouraged, being in doubt, being lonely, all those things are reasons to grow, to expand and to let go of situations and circumstances that, you can't change or you have outgrown. It's the end. The end is just a beginning simultaneously. Okay. The beginning is the end of something. Live life in the now. Life is only today. Have a great day. Have great everything. But do it today. Don't wait till tomorrow to do it. Tomorrow's not promised. But today, right now, is all we have. Man who throws away the present moment throws away all that he has. Hey, I hope everybody has a truly wonderful, great everything. I'm Drew. Peace.